Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. We're going to be building a track in this video, or the start of a track, and I'm just going to show you my thought process and the things that I do to get things fitted and just kind of building the general idea of the track up. And I usually start my way of working without a genre in mind. So yes, we've been predominantly doing trance on this channel and we're still going to continue to do trance, but we are going to look at other genres and just electronic music as a whole. And this is where more of the ideas start to shine, because you really are just building something that takes you on a journey and you just keep adding to it. And that sort of creativity is probably the best for any producer. Just go with the flow, whatever sounds good. As long as you're developing your own style and your own sound, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so here we are in Cubase. I've already loaded in a kick, and this is going to be the starting point. It doesn't mean that necessarily it's going to be the kick of the track. I'm just going to design something and just see where it goes. So we're going to start with, let's just start with 2 bars for now. Keep it nice and simple. I'm just going to drag this MIDI editor over. I always work with the line tool because you can draw a succession of notes really quickly, and it doesn't always preview the audio sample when you click in as well, which is not always the case, but it's just a nice little added extra. All right, so we've got our kick drum in there. I'm just going to reset the tempo. Let's do 1, 2, 3. So 123 beats per minute. Let's just reloop that. And I'm just going to do a little bit of basic shaping here in the Cubase editor. So just do it in your own sampler if you've got one. So I just want it to be a little bit sharper, and it just gives us a better starting place, and we can edit it a bit later on. So next up, I'm going to use an older pack here, the Dead Mouse from Loop Masters. And let's just pick some loops out of here. And the good thing is we can just click here and it'll align the tempo with that. Okay, so we'll drag that one in. It's going to auto tempo align that. And I'm just going to take the clap out of this. This is all I really want. And for those Cubase users out there, if you're wondering how this is already auto sort of changing the grid, I'm using the adaptive zoom up here in the grid type instead of beats or bars. Okay, so I'm just going to chop that clap there, and I'm going to chop that. In fact, let's get a little bit more of that. Just re-chop this one here to there, get that clap there, and then I can just delete everything around those claps. So we just have that now. That sounds nice. I like the way that it falls sort of before the beat as well, gives it a nice natural human element to it. So let's drag those across. And I just need to zoom in. It starts just before like that. And then we can relabel that to clap. So you can see I'm just trying to build some elements, or just hear the elements that I want that seem to work with that kick. And I heard that clap work quite nicely, so that's where it starts. Let's pick another loop. I'm just going to pick one more out of this pack. All right, so I'm going to drag that one in. That's not really the direction I was expecting to go in, but let's loop this first bar. Let's take this one. So I'll get rid of this first point. And yeah, go on then, let's take that part. So I'm just going to discard the rest of the loop here. And maybe just there. And I think that's going to be too much if we just loop that repeatedly. So what we could do here is maybe take away that and just put that offbeat. So what I'm trying to do is just mess around with some ideas and get a general groove going, just something that might spark the next part of the idea, which is the bass. And there's already some ideas floating around. So I can use Splice. So you can see on the second screen here, I am using Splice, but you can't hear that at the moment. For some reason, Cubase, just the whole recording thing just doesn't want to hear this, even though it's rooted. So you're not going to be able to hear any of these, but I'll just skip to when I'm dropping it in. All right, so we've got a loop here from Splice, and it's not in time. So I'm just going to open up the pool window here. And you can do this in any DAW. You can just choose the tempo, and then you can set it to musical mode. Instead of it being 125, it's now going to automatically put it at 123 for me, which is now perfectly in time. So just switching to the mixer view here, I'm just going to start doing some very basic leveling. And what I tend to do is just set all the pre's to -9 to give us some headroom, and then we can work with that. So I'm just going to bring the level of this down according to the rest of the track. So let's just get rid of this for a second. So I think I'm going to leave that hat loop as a whole, maybe just sort of like edit it up a little bit with some signal processing. But this bit here where these sort of like percussive elements are, I need to work on these. So it's now kind of swung, it's got a groove to it, they're not quite on the beats as you can see there, so we're going to have to do the same with these. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can zoom in and we can use like a quantized setting and set a groove loosely if we wanted to, or we can do it by hand, and I'm going to do this by hand. So for now, I'm just going to mute this one. It just sounds like we need to do something like offbeat. And let's just unmute that. We need some context here. So a bit of lag on that then. That's sounded a little bit better. And we can keep that offbeat like that, and then we can just copy them over. So to keep them in time, I'm actually going to hold Alt and drag this one that I know is on the beat here. Turn on my quantized snapping again. So it snaps this one, but this one in the place where we've kind of offset it, so that keeps the same vibe. So I'm just going to set different levels with this. Maybe just drop that a bit, and I think we'll drop this level a little bit more as well, so I don't have to go in. This is like editing the velocity levels on MIDI. That's working much better, so let's bring that level down. And I'm going to do the same thing and just copy these over, so we've got the same levels on the audio and we've got a nice section going there. So just to tidy things up, I'm just going to use some EQ. So I'm going to use the Cubase frequency EQ here. So you can use any of your EQs. Pro Q3 will be fine, or TDR Nova, free ones. You can use it. It's all exactly the same sort of stuff. So this is the hats. And I'm not going to keep tiring of saying this, when you are chopping the lows out and controlling the lows in areas where they're not needed, you're going to get brighter sound as a result of that, because the headroom is not being taken up by lower frequencies. So if you listen to me turning this on and off where I've done the cut, you're going to hear that the hats sound like they got brighter, and I haven't had to boost them, I've just had to control how much that low information is coming through. So it makes it sound like it's brighter, but it's just because we're not focusing on all that lower stuff there. It's giving us a nice crispy result. So just basic roll off with that. With this, I think what we'll do is we'll go to page 2 here. And I'll drag the frequency across, so copying it over, so it's just the same, and then I can just readjust this. So for now, I'm going to roll it off about there. It's just affecting that area, but I need to work out where the kick and stuff is going to sit later on when mixing. So that is a nice little roll off. With the clap, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to drag that across. And on this one, let's just have a look at the clap. Let's just solo this. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker as well, I think. So we'll put a low cut or a high cut, should we say, on here, just to darken it a little bit on the top. So we could change up the kick. I'm feeling that the vibe's not quite there. So just give me 2 seconds. I will drag one out of Splice. All right, so I've dragged in another kick here from Splice. It's just a little bit sort of, it's darker. It's just a little bit more beefy, but more controlled at the same time. So it sounds like this now. Sounds much, much better in my opinion. So this is all part of the development. We might change it again, but I'm trying not to change it too much once we've got the bass and everything in place, because the kick and the bass relate to each other quite closely. So I'm happy with that. Let's get some basic levels set on here. So I just want to keep it sort of like the hat's a little bit lower for now, so I can just hear those sounds. Now these ones I'm going to chop the tops off, I think. So I'm just going to do a 6 roll. So I'm going to start with that. I want everything to just have a little bit of a darker tone to it for this, and that's working for now. We can change that whenever we want. And I'm just going to call that perk hit so we know what's going on there. And we'll just call this top loop for now. And also colour that red because it's all part of the percussion. We've got all that set up, we can just start working on some other melodic ideas. So I am going to load up Vital for this. And the beauty is, I think this is going down again, sort of like a techno, maybe not melodic techno, but I think that's what it's going to become, just purely on the basis of me creating a melody, and that's what I do. So let's have a look. So some presets there coming in a new pack that's coming to the website and to another at some point. And again on the mixer, just on the other page, I'm just setting this to -9, so we're kind of keeping in the same ballpark. Okay, just turn the mod wheel down here. So the key to this is working out what that kick drum is in. So we can just go back to this kick and just here on the mixer, let's load in span. I'll just drag it off my third monitor to make things a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to change this to high res mode. And we can see we've got quite an obvious tone here at 40 Hertz. So if we hover over, you can see at the top it says E1, so it's in the key of E. And that's all we need to know for now, so we can shut that down. So let's just say the track is in the key of E, and we can just obviously draw an E in here. Let's just unloop that. Let's go down one more octave. Maybe one more. going to set this to 16s. And let's keep a quite linear bass on this, I think. Maybe something like this. So I'm going to put scales and chords on. Let's just go to scale assistant. I'm just going to set this to E, and we'll use E minor for this one. So something like that. So I'm just setting up some sidechain imitation, and I'm going to do the same with a filter. So this is very similar to Shaperbox if you want to use Shaperbox if you are not a Cubase user. So I'm just going to drag the Q down. So we don't want to affect the filter Q because that's what we've got set up here, but I want to control the frequency, and I'm going to do this in reverse because we're going to use a high pass, and that's going to push the bass out of the way of that lower end. So I'm going to use a high pass 12. Let's just have something like this. So it's still doing sidechain, but it's doing it backwards because obviously the higher we go, the more of the bass is cut out because it's a high pass. So let's just play this at 1 bar long. So you can hear the higher we go, the more that sound just is not there till it filters back down. And what we're trying to do is just create a little bit of a pumping effect using the high pass there to just take the bass away for a second. You can see there up to 1K, which is probably going to work quite nicely. Let's have it on quarter notes. And the point is, you can't really hear it, and that just gets it out of the way of the kick, so you don't have to do really hard volume shaping on it. Right, so I'm just doing a little bit of a tweak on the volume shaping there, and that's sounding pretty good. So I'm going to colour that as bass for now, and then duplicate it. And I'm just going to colour this in the colours that I usually do, leads. And I'm just going to turn off the effects modulator for that channel. So we have exactly the same, but with no effects. Or we did. There we are. Again, let's just turn down that mod wheel. And let's just create a bit of an ARP, I think. A bit higher up. Something like that. And let's just do something really simple. Okay, let's just copy that across like that. Okay, so I just want to make that a little bit more plucky. Might need to be a bit lower. A bit higher, should we say. Let's just turn this effects modulator on. I'm just going to turn the filter off for a second. So the filter is actually working as well, maybe a bit of a blend of both. In fact, let's just turn the mix down on that as well. We just want it to be a bit more transparent, but it's still getting a little bit of side chain on there. And then a bit of EQ again. I'm just going to do some roll off. And you can see just the way I'm thinking here. Just trying to boost the natural areas of the sound. As long as the sound design's good and it fits with what you're choosing, then everything is good. So this one, I don't want that to fade off. So envelope 1, we can just change to full sustain. I'll just turn the decay off. Okay, I think we've got our starting point there. So ARP, bass. I think what we can do is just open that a little bit. And then reutilize this decay here that I had before. Okay, so that is all sounding good. I'm just going to make this a little bit pluckier. Okay, so let's come up with a bass idea for this. I'm just going to repeat quite a long section, and let's have this. So I'm just going to use this keyboard. Okay, don't have a keyboard on my table. Let's just loop 2 sections here. So we've got 4 bars. I'm just going to draw in a new part. Zoom out so we can see it all. Right, so I am going to just draw some parts in. So we'll start with making sure our stuff's on there. And just draw a basic baseline movement here. Let's just try that for a second. Okay, seems to work, but it goes too high, so let's just try that. I think we've got a starting point there. That sounds quite nice. So cut that bit out. I always leave a little bit off to the right if I've come up with an idea so the track can be built in context. Now we need some sort of like main bass area. So I'm just going to chop that out of there. And I'm just going to make these this long. And then we can just put them offbeat. Drag them across. Right, so we've got some offbeat notes. I'll just make them 1/8 notes for now. And we'll transpose them up one because that preset is designed to be a little bit lower. All right, so let's just call this sub for now. All right, maybe that sound design is lower as well. Okay, so it is a little bit quiet, so I'm just checking on the mixer. And it is a little bit quiet, but I think it's the sound design here. Yeah. We can hear some clicking on there, and that is down to this. So it's the filter. Just smoothing off the edges there, you can see. So this is just interfering a little bit. Just have a bit more brightness coming back in. Let's just see how that sounds. Right, working a bit better. Just keep it out of the way for now. So with that other bass on. So I'm going to take some of the sort of focus off this bass now, because it's not acting as the main bass. And we can just do a 6 for now. Maybe do a 12. So for now that will do. With this sub bass, don't know if I'm just going to make this mono, so I'm just using the built-in mono to stereo plugin for Cubase. You can use anything you want. And the same goes for the kick for now, mono to stereo. I want it straight down the middle. So with all that in place, so I want it to be a little bit more obvious like that, and maybe we could feed in some of the original signal actually in general, just on the global mix. So we got about 90% there. So we've got a little bit of New York style mix in there. You typically use that in compression. I'm just wondering, that sounds a little bit too happy. Make it a bit darker. maybe not. I'm not going to dwell on that one too much. So I'm going to copy that across, so I've got 9 bars. And I'm not going to do too much else there, it's just so you can see the sort of starting patterns there. I'm going to bring this across. I'm going to have the kick as a starting point, and maybe have the sub, so it's like that. And maybe have that every 2 bars like so. Like that. So it's not too repetitive. Let's just get rid of that one there and move that one. I'm just going to shorten these notes slightly. Just so they're falling pretty short there. So probably the main thing now that I'm just going to do with the kick and the bass is shorten both of them so they're not overlapping. So to show this, I am going to use LFO tool. Put this on this screen. And we're going to use the sort of typical shaping. So I'm going to bring this up, add another node in here. Bring that down to about here, just so there's a little ramp to stop any clicking. And we're going to leave that on a 1/4, so we're getting that sort of like kick length and we can shape it properly. So you can see it overlaps quite a lot. And with these sort of like techno style kicks, it doesn't really matter about keeping it lower. It depends on how your bass is. You don't want to keep it shorter, shall I say. But I'm going to opt for sort of finishing on the bar, or the half beat, should we say. So technically you are losing a bit of power. Yeah, that is correct, because you're losing some of the length and where the sort of like the tone of the kick is. But don't worry about that too much. We can just use a bit of EQ. So I'm just going to use Lofticus for this and boost the 40 Hertz area. Just going to bring it down a smidge. And I'm just going to put LFO tool here after Lofticus here on the left. And the reason for that is if you're boosting after the shaping, you're going to get some extra tail back on the end sometimes, and then you have to reshape it again, and then you have to EQ it again, and you're going around that endless loop. So just do a bit of EQ and then curve it off, because you're emphasizing the fact that you're cutting a bit of the sort of tone of the kick, so you're going to boost it a little bit earlier. In this particular case anyway. And then the same with the sub. I'm going to use LFO tool, and we're going to use this in reverse like a typical sidechain shape. So at the moment it's not too bad, it's not going into the other side. Let's just have this open. So usually you'd see a bit of leakage here, but the release is pretty quick, so I'm just going to leave it as it is, but I'm just going to shape it anyway. Like so. And that just stops the kick and the bass sort of colliding. So it's very subtle, but it's just making sure everything is kind of on, off with that kick and sub bass there. And then hopefully when the sort of like percussion is involved, it'll sound a little bit better. So I'm just going to drag them out of the way. And let's just say the top loop comes in later. Let's just do a little bit of a sort of thing like that. I think even that, so let's just get rid of them again because I just undid it. Let's copy this over and maybe not have them in for now. I'm just very loosely kind of setting this up here. I didn't want that to come in at that point. And then we can obviously introduce the ARP a little bit later, a little bit lower, cut the filter off. So I'm just going to shift that ARP out of the way for now. And this bass here obviously is not part of that sequence. Let's just make sure we've got the same thing. Let's just try that one octave lower again. I'm going to let some of those lower frequencies back in now. And maybe roll some of those top ones out. So maybe just use a 6 so it's nice and gentle. And it is on the wrong channel there. So let's just grab that back. Roll that back. We were doing the total wrong one. I thought we couldn't hear anything. And I'm going to do a 24 on this. So we're not getting these lower ones conflicting with our kick drum area. And then we can just do a nice gentle 6 dB roll off on the top. I'm just experimenting with an idea here. So we're going to go off key here. I just want to be able to sort of like go through the semitones back to that E. Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just going straight to the E in my head. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to create a little bridge in this section here. So let's get rid of that. Bring this back across to here. There we are. And what I'm going to do here is just grab the filter, which is assigned to the mod wheel for this bass. And just bring that up and then back down. Maybe even further down. And we've missed some of the claps out of there. Let's just grab those like so. So you can see where I'm going with this. I'm going to make this ARP even shorter now. Let's make sure we're not editing the bass there. As you can see, wrong channel selected. I'm just loading in a bypass mode for this. So this way around. Again, this is on the wrong one. In fact, let's just go to the effects modulator and set this as a mix. So what I'm doing is setting right, clicking on the parameter, and it just automatically adds that lane in for me. It does on Cubase anyway. So I'm just going to blend that out like so. It needs to be the opposite way around. And let's just have a little ramp down like that. So these are the things that I'm going through in terms of like designing the sound, and I can hear that the decay needs to open up as this is progressing. So I'm going to use the mod wheel to do that, so it does it all in one go. And I'm going to open the sustain to full, I think. And I'm going to do the same a little bit for this filter. So this envelope's controlling the filters. Okay, that's going to be a little bit better for now, and we can just listen to that now. We can actually demonstrate that here, like so. Let's create a bit of a ramp back down. Could be a little bit faster, so let's just put a point here. Like so. And I'm just going to add some reverb after this, so let's just use Valhalla Supermassive for now. It's the first free reverb I could think of, so you can follow along. And let's just use the reverbs. Large splashy synth will do. I'm just going to roll out the lows. Let's just put that here. Just going to turn the feedback down. Okay, it's throwing a little wobbly. Some reason we get this occasionally with Vital in Cubase, so let's just let it settle down a second. Okie dokie, let's play this game. So let's just turn this off. Okay, I've just reset the project. There we are. Sometimes it just seems to do this. And then I'm just going to put the frequency modulator for the sidechain after Valhalla, so we'll get actually sidechaining the reverb as well when that is on. Okay, so I'm just going to roll that off a little bit before it gets to there. So it's something like that. So the first half of the bar, it's nearly gone, and then by the end, it's done. So So there we are. We have the buildings of a track. Hopefully you can see from that how I'm starting a track. And if you want me to continue building this, I can do. I've got the other melodic techno series to complete. That track just needs finishing off. So that video will be coming up at some point that we did over the Christmas break. And if you want me to carry on continue with this one, I'll just show you the sort of like workings and how I keep developing the sound. I've got some ideas in there, especially some sort of vocal sitting in the background, probably sound good. But if you want to see more of that, just let me know in the comments. It'd be interesting to see if you want to see more. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Take care.